What do you think the highest selling entertainment franchise of all time is? The answer might surprise you. It's not Star Wars, it's not the Marvel Cinematic Universe, no, it's not even Harry Potter. So what is it? Very quickly, give the person next to you your best guess. If you said Mario, congratulations! You're wrong. Sorry, it's actually... That's right. The highest selling entertainment franchise ever is actually Pokemon. And although the cards and the show are popular, from Pokemon's beginning, the games have always led the success of the series.
Despite being one of the youngest forms of media, video games are one of the largest and most diverse industries on the face of the earth. There's a little bit for everyone in video games, from cowboys to shapes, to spaceships to farming. And although for a while, most people viewed games as a young person's hobby, these days the average grandparent might still be playing their Wii, and the average mom has logged a few hours of Candy Crush in their free time. So why are games so popular? Throughout this first episode, we will list a variety of answers to this question. But for now, what do you think? Why do you think most people play games? Turn to the person next to you and share your perspective.
As long as humans have congregated together, we've played games. The Greek historian Herodotus recorded citizens from the ancient kingdom of Lydia playing early forms of dice to entertain themselves during times of intense famine. The earliest form of American football originated in medieval times, and whole towns would partake. Play usually only suspended if someone, well, died.
In India, a sport called kabaddi, a mixture of dodgeball and tag, played as long as people can remember, has resurged in popularity. Regardless of what they look like, people have turned to games for entertainment and to pass the time. It's no surprise then, with the dawning of a digital age, humans shifted to playing games in a digital format.
Since at least 1958, video games have fascinated players. Unlike other forms of media where participation is passive, games invite their players to take part in what is happening on their screen. Even with modern graphics and developed systems, there is still something fascinating about simply being able to press a button and watch something change on screen. Games can be incredibly entertaining, and even games that seem monotonous can still be entertaining to the right players. The question is why?
In 2005, the Xbox 360 was launched. Alongside its online service, Xbox Live. People have been playing video games online well before Xbox Live, but perhaps the most significant contribution of Xbox Live to gaming was this sound. Recognize it? To many game players, this is the sound of an achievement. For the first time, a sound and a number signified and tracked the accomplishments of a player in the game. Video games have always had small, incremental challenges, but modern achievement systems have made them into one of the most integral and addictive aspects of gaming.
Many people have criticized video games for absorbing their players' motivation to accomplish anything in real life. However you feel about that criticism, it's easy to understand how that could happen with games, considering how rewarding they can feel. As Jane McGonigal puts it, when we're playing a good game, when we're tackling unnecessary obstacles, we are actively moving ourselves towards the positive end of the emotional spectrum. We are intensely engaged, and this puts us in precisely the right frame of mind and physical condition to generate all kinds of positive emotions and experiences. So one reason someone might play games is this feeling of accomplishment and all the positive emotions that go with that.
Another reason may be for the sense of community. Multiplayer is a big part of this, but many modern games also include some sort of social space for players to hang out in, check their gear, or plan their next steps. Many players have fond memories hanging out in places like the Tower from Destiny or using the menu of Fortnite as a chat room. Apps like Discord are basically built on the backs of players simply wanting to congregate in a shared space to discuss shared interests or to organize groups to play with. We'll talk more about these spaces in our next episode.
Still others may play games as an outlet for their creativity. Because the vast majority of games require input from their players, many tend to foster creativity, allowing players to express themselves through the way they play. You'd be hard-pressed to find two people who use the 6 same exact Pokemon, and games like Minecraft allow players to construct and customize entire worlds. Virtual reality has given artists the opportunity to paint in 3 dimensions for the first time, maybe in history, and games like Dreams look to carry this legacy, giving players powerful tools to create art and story, and yes, more games.
Finally, we might also play for a sense of power, a power fantasy. Very simply defined, power fantasy is the fantasy of being more powerful and having more control over your situation than you do in your ordinary life. Developing a character can be a form of power fantasy. Finally, beating that boss who's been kicking your butt for the last hour can be a form of power fantasy. Owning a house and having a yard can be, yes, a form of power fantasy.
For some people, simply being able to control some aspect of their life is a form of power fantasy. In his fantastic piece about discovering games alongside his sons and how the games helped his sons through his divorce, Dr. Jordan Shapiro describes a form of power fantasy this way. The comparisons to video games gave them the distance they needed to find a new perspective on their life-world problems. They also made it easier to experience the emotional roller coaster of their school day social interactions, separate from the pall that my divorce had cast over their lives. Most important, they helped them reimagine everyday scenarios in ways that felt empowering. It put a metaphorical game controller in their hands.
Sometimes life takes us through difficult circumstances. When that happens, power fantasy can be a way to gain a new perspective on our situation, and it can give us a fresh mindset in approaching and confronting these difficult circumstances. Sometimes we have to give our minds a break, to step back and to process, just to rest. But sometimes living the fantasy can replace living our actual lives, tending to our actual yard or finishing that actual project we've been working on. When a power fantasy is applied in this way, it can easily turn to escapism.
Escapism is the avoidance of reality by absorption of the mind in entertainment or in an imaginative situation, activity, etc. Now, there are absolutely times where we need to take a step back from the constant worries and strivings of our lives to gain a new perspective and refresh our minds and spirits. Sometimes games can provide that step back, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. This leads to a question: what's the difference between escapism and rest? Share your answer with someone near you.
Rest is required for us. In fact, rest is so important to God that He made keeping the Sabbath one of the 10 Commandments. Jesus wants His followers to be awake to and aware of the pain, suffering, poverty, racism, sexism, and injustice in the world around us. He desires that we rest in order to return with a renewed sense of purpose and to be active participants in healing the brokenness of the world around us, to partner with Him in bringing the kingdom of heaven.
The difference between rest and escapism is that rest recharges us to come back to our world. Escapism is about avoiding our world. Video games can either be rest or escapism, as can reading books, watching movies, or anything else. It just depends on how we use them. So yes, grab a good game or whatever helps you recharge, but always make sure you're ready to jump back in.